So, a 29-year-old is drugged and raped, and then she goes missing. Like, subscribe, ID in the Discovery Channel. Yes, ID in the Discovery Channel. The links are provided below. Get that Discovery Go app as well as that ID Go app. You might want to get those two things, combine them, make them into one. So yes, a 29-year-old admits to being both drugged and raped, and soon after goes missing without leads. Could her stating that she was drugged and raped, could that be why she is still missing today? Dear viewers, leave me a comment in the comment section. Crystal Ann Raysinger. I'm going to just call her by her first name, Crystal. Crystal was last seen on July 13th, 2016. You know how many years ago that was? 2016. She went missing on right around that time period, July 13th, 2016. Her childhood was not the best in Arizona. She came from a troubled past and left Arizona to move to Denver to improve her life. 2013, she gave birth to a child with her partner, Elijah Gana. She left Denver for spiritual enlightenment, which led her to making her way to Crestone, full of like-minded spiritual beings. See, the childhood, when people go missing, you always want to question the childhood because that can show you much more. The likelihood of, say, why they could be missing. Even if their life is better, as in even if their life has improved, you still want to question the childhood once someone goes missing, despite even her being 29 years old, because see, to have childhood issues is to carry those into adulthood, despite you might improve yourself or be an improved individual, right? That can still pose problems, her having the troubled childhood, and it was never stated whether there was abuse in the home she lived in as a child. So Crystal had plans for her child and partner to live with her in an apartment she found. The plan was to move in once she settled in. And also she held conversations every day over the phone with her partner as he stated. Their calls took an ending around July 2016 when Crystal couldn't be found. So she had plans to move in her apartment. She had plans to move her partner as well as her child into an apartment she found, right? That was to happen after she got herself settled in completely and she had conversations with her partner on a day-to-day basis, and then one day she just up and disappears, vanishes. Think about that. What could be in the middle outside of what's missing? What could have led up to that? Because to not have much information to go on is to think about it. Dear viewers, leave a comment in the comment section. So the landlord filed a missing persons report in relation to the rent being unpaid. It was the landlord that filed a missing persons report in relation to the rent being unpaid, which is somewhat unusual. There's an offness to it because for her to have be in a relationship with somebody, right, and say, yeah, that it's slightly unusual with that. Usually it's the boyfriend, you in a relationship with whoever you're with, and say you go missing and they in fact file a missing persons report on you. But that was not the case. It wasn't her partner she was involved with that filed the missing persons report. Once again, it was the landlord because the rent was unpaid. That's completely, yeah. I'm saying it's kind of sketchy because for a landlord, see, landlords don't usually file. This was odd. I'm saying it's set off in the center. do landlords, do they or do they not file missing persons reports once the rent is unpaid? That's highly unlikely, because see, the average landlord, once the rent is not paid, it's been known that landlords will set all your stuff outside of the property onto the curb. Did you get that, dear viewer? For those that might not be paying attention, it's highly unlikely. Pay attention to what I'm saying. This is the third or fourth time I'm saying it. Usually when a person goes missing, right, depending on the date, the timing, and the situation, usually it will be a fella such as the woman's boyfriend that will file a missing persons. If not, the family file a missing persons report, and not a landlord. Many of us have been surrounded by all type of individuals, including landlords, where if something is not paid, stuff, yeah. But maybe this is one of those, how you have, well, you got a 1% or a 2%. Because see, at any time, the reason I'm saying this, a person could have wanted to take it upon themselves to leave the city. There's all type of landlords out here where, say, an individual just say, well, I'm going to take it upon myself. I'm just going to leave out the city, whatever. I'm going to whatever, vacate the premises for a few months, days, a year, whatever. And I'm just going to leave all my stuff in the apartment where I'm staying. The average landlord does not care. They're going to try to contact you. If there's no contact back, that's the end of that. As in, usually depending on the situation, as well as the city, the state, and all the rest, right? There's landlords that don't have a care in the world. As in, they will just sit everything out on the curb. I was just talking to a landlord a few days back about the situation. He was saying how it was a whole bunch of beer bottles and all the rest inside the apartment that they had to clean out or whatever. Like, there's usually no feelings, but once again, it depends on the situation. This just happened to be one of those very rare cases, but once again, it's highly unlikely. So the situation just sounds sketchy overall. The landlord needs to be questioned even more so, because I don't know. There's laws in place, state to state, for various reasons, right? But what's the percentage on that? What is the percentage on a landlord? Say, let me file a missing persons. I can't get in contact, whatever, right? Something odd about that. Okay, so moving on. The county sheriff's office felt she left on her own accord. You see what I'm going with this? The county sheriff's office felt she left on her own. That's why I mentioned when I said about the landlord, because it's all type of people that just get up and walk away, right? That's what's so odd. Think about this. It's all type of people were living in all type of places, apartments included, where one day they just don't want to pay the rent. That's not saying that's her situation, no. She might have been abducted, right? But I'm just saying, think about it. There's even grown men that would consider that sort of thing. I don't want to pay my rent. As in, there's no care in the world that for that to even be on their record. There's some people that don't care about that because they're free spirits to not care. I'm not going to pay my rent. I'm going to walk out this situation and leave it as it is and leave everything here. There's people, yes, that have been known to leave all their property, belongings, and everything else, even in apartments, and just go off and create a whole new life, even abroad, right? Changing identities and all that before you get on the plane and all the rest, right? And so, I don't know. Because to walk away is to say, I can do that sort of thing. But what I keep coming back to that. What my landlord filing missing persons. If see, you got sheriff's office, you got police, detectives, and all the rest, right? That might have, say, what's the wording for it? What's the terminology? The phrasing. If I'm a landlord, cannot be talked into filing a missing persons report. It depends. That's what I'm saying. It always depends on the situation. But once again, the county sheriff's office felt she left on her own accord. Because see, the timing, the date, something about the timing and the date is off between this landlord filing this missing person as well as her boyfriend taking it upon himself. Because remember, she was in contact talking to him on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not understanding something. Why wouldn't the boyfriend file it in place of the landlord? The timing, the aligning of timing, understand that. So soon after Crestone, remember that's the place. Location, right? Is where Crystal's partner went looking for her, which led to further investigation. Crestone is in fact a location. So, yes, once again, soon after Crestone is where Crystal's partner went looking for her, which led to further investigation. Her apartment was searched. Nothing in the apartment raised any alert, and all items were the same just before she left. The items was all where they should be. Yes. So, a drum circle. There's spiritual beings that in fact, yes, get involved in drum circles and all the rest, right? Highly enlightening, I must say. So could Crystal have gotten lost in a dense wilderness? Once again, think about it. A drum circle. As in you're having to pass through certain areas and locations to get to a drum circle as a participant, right? You may or may not have made it there. You might have gotten lost in dense wilderness. So once again, could Crystal have gotten lost in a dense wilderness? I'm asking this because it's questionable on whether Crystal was to attend a drum circle. And if so, would she have had to walk through a dangerous wilderness based upon how dense the area itself is and was? That she may have attempted to cross through the area is what I'm trying to say, just so that she can. Yes, I just mentioned that. I mentioned that twice. Because see, to be out in dense area, depending on the situation, location, right? To get to a drum circle, or even come back from one, is to say sometimes people want to take shortcuts, as in to find their way through, and they shouldn't be trying to. They should, matter of fact, want to go around, but the go around takes longer, right? And so there's people that will try to cross through dense area, and that's in fact how people die. Because if it's too dense, it's to say once again, it's too dangerous to cross through. Lives is lost in that. Because to get lost is to not be found and end up a missing person, right? Crossing through wilderness poses problems. It could have even caused her death. But that's questionable because remember, this whole story, the opening, see, it points in two different ways. She could have either tried to cross within the wilderness, right? Because of its denseness, got entrapped, and now she's missing, which all could have led to her death, or she could have been killed. Remember, the opening of the story all involved her being drugged and raped by various guys. So it's one of the two. Think about it, dear viewer. Leave a comment in the comment section. So once again, did the wilderness lead to her dying? If she's dead, she could be just missing, right? Let that play out. Or was it her being drugged and raped by individuals, the male individuals in which I spoke on? I'm asking this because they may have felt she was talking too much to others about the situation of her being drugged and raped. To be drugged and raped is to end up found out. which is how people go to jail once a individual starts talking to other people. And the best way to rid the situation is to rid the individual who's doing the talking. So that area, that dense area of where she might have crossed and possibly died if she wasn't killed by the guys that drugged and raped her, right? That area I spoke on has been searched by search teams and nothing has been found. Nothing has been found, and yet you can't really completely say, because there have been times where people have came up missing, and then the search teams went out, yes, in dense area, wilderness type of area, wooded area, where search teams and all that, rescue, whatever, they go out and they search and look for individuals, to not find anything, to later find out that here's some remains that they missed. There's been individuals where that has happened, where a year later their remains were found, right? But it's not like a highly, what's the word? I was going to say prevalent. Wrong term, right? It's rare. There's all type of people that they become lost out in wooded area, out in dense area, out in wilderness, right? Out in, a wilderness and all the rest, right? I'm pausing because I had to think about it. As in, I'm talking, yes, to this camera, but I'm trying to backtrack in my mind with this one, because I always think about that young guy that when he was jogging or whatever out, it was out in forest area, right? He goes missing. Some type of way he falls off a cliff. I think I mentioned this in one of my other videos. Search teams went out to rescue, search teams went out to go search for him, right? Nothing could be found. His mom and everyone else, come to find out, his remains was right out there. Like, they missed his remains. Sometimes, it could be, you can be a few feet away from someone's remains and not even know. That's what I'm saying. That's the thing about when something is dense, you don't even know, right? But the guys that drugged and raped her, I'll come back to that. Let me see. Oh, let's get to it now. So it's in question of if the males who were a part of the rape of Crystal, all stands in question if they are tied, those males that drugged and raped her. It's in question of if those males are tied to drug markets that are linked between Crestone and Denver. Some might question sex trafficking. To take it even much more further, with that, I'm throwing that in myself. Nobody led me on to say that. I'm throwing that in myself. Because to question if those individuals are tied to drug markets is to question even sex trafficking as well. Remember, they drugged and raped her, right? Tied to it is questions being asked on if the guys are tied to drug markets that are linked. That's why I'm saying drug markets that are linked between Crestone and Denver. The locations, Crestone and Denver. Because to know that there's a drug market here as well as a drug market here is to say, well, there can be, in fact, sex trafficking here as well as here. Which could have led to her death. But before that could have led to her being raped. Because people have sex with people unwillingly. And it's prevalent in, sex trafficking to drug individuals. To make them do things unwillingly, right? You don't know the corruption, as in the male individuals, their involvement and reasons of why they were doing what they were doing. That's what's so messed up about the situation, because to not know a clear proof background on the guys that drugged and raped her is to not even know, and possibly never know. Who knows, right? There's a sensing that Crystal may have been murdered by the Mills over her rape, and more than likely, if she was murdered, I said this before, they could have murdered her to quiet her down so she stopped talking, because information is known to spread, and to tell all the right people is to get people locked up. So no arrests have been made, and after searches have been conducted on mine shafts. Why am I mentioning mine shafts? Because that was in question too. The area, I'm saying, the area where all occurred and all the rest with this, that was one of the first questions, because she had, say, been thrown down a mine shaft, which is spooky and scary in itself once you think about it, dear viewer. Because any other locations, depending on the city, state, right? You got rural areas, right? You don't really, that, yes, once again, city, state, depending on, because see, if I'm walking down the street somewhere, or even if I'm in New York somewhere, or wherever, or New Jersey, or California, or Maine, right? It's to say, well, okay, such and such went missing, right? But it's not going to be the first question or first thought to consider checking a mine shaft. And yet, where this took place involving her, that was the first thing. Check every mine shaft. There was over 60 mine shafts that have in fact been searched. That's scary in itself. Think about that. No, her body was not found in any mine shafts. It was stated that her body could have been thrown into a mine shaft. I said that. And once again, over 60 were searched. That's completely, yeah, that's wicked in itself. So, body measurement stands at Crystal's body measurements stand, or should I say stood at, during that time, because the no time changes, as I say, everything else does too. Some people gain weight, some people lose, right? Body measurements: 6 feet 5 inches, 6 foot tall and 5 inches. 6 foot 5 foot, yes. Not Frankenstein, no. Figure it out. The way I speak on my calculations is, yeah, highly scientific, and yet it's not as creative. It goes over the head, right? 6 foot 5 inches, 155 pounds. She has tattoos, a nose ring. Yes, the tattoos in fact span across her body. She wears very bleached blonde dreadlocks. You've seen her in the photo up above my head. I keep sensing she's dead. I could be wrong, right? But to go missing too oftentimes is to say, if somebody threatens your life, it's to go missing too. Individuals do that sort of thing. If a situation happens, right, that's more unlikely, right? But situations have occurred for people, say, where they're raped but drugged before they're raped, right? And to get away from it all because they're being issued death threats by the people that have did it, right? That's how people go missing. And yet you still have to question the contact, as in, if she were to go missing, she's missing now, right? If she would have contacted her boyfriend, she more than likely wouldn't have contacted the landlord, no. That puts her identity out there, traceable, right? But would she have contacted her boyfriend? Think about that, dear viewers. Leave a comment in the comment section. Would she have would she have contacted her boyfriend? Because remember, she stopped all communication as in the phone calls, right? Which points to death slightly, right? But say if she did go run off because she was, yes, issued death threats against her for her talking possibly too much. These guys might have felt that, right? Where could she have went? Remember, she had a child. The child was left behind, right? Where could she have went? Because that's to say, to leave a child behind is to say, if she's not dead, is to possibly wait until the child grows older and then come back. There's people that's known to hide out like that. Wait a few years, hide out. Wait a few years because they're terrified for their life and they don't contact anybody. They cut all communications. Because, see, to know that her child more than likely was in good hands with the father of the child is to say the mother possibly wouldn't have deep concern. There's bonding in that, mother bond, mother-child bond, right? That's to say the child would have still been well off in a sense. If the father was a good parent, just enough for the mother not to worry if, say, the mother were to run off for fear of her life of being killed or something by those guys that drugged and raped her, right? The situation points so many ways, various ways, right? It's hard to pinpoint and point on. But that could once again be done. Her just up and disappearing, right? Because you don't never know what that. They could have if she didn't leave on her own accord, right? They could have yes, located her. These individuals that drugged and raped her, they could have located her and say, dragged her to her death somewhere. She could be out in the wilderness and all the rest is what I'm trying to say. Because, see, look, to know there's no cameras around, to know that you're walking out alone by yourself, you're a female walking out alone by yourself, and say these people may have wanted to hush you down, quiet you down, right? It's to say those very same people could have gotten their hands on her at any time while she was walking out alone. And possibly put her out in a dense area or somewhere else. Because just because she was living by, say, area that was like, or traveling and walking on foot and all the rest, being by wilderness area, right? Who's to say that her body could be placed there? Who's to say her body could have been placed in a mine shaft? Remember, they searched for her in various mine shafts, over 60. That's a high number. 60 mine shafts, right? That's desperate enough to want to know where she is, right? But to know people do crooked things is to say they could have killed her and placed her anywhere. She could be laying out, yes, or could have been laying out in a ditch somewhere. Possibly in a whole different city, town. People do so much stuff is all I'm trying to say. Sometimes people think they'll listen to the news and go by the news and think that that's just all that there is. And yet it's so much more to be said. Just because she lived, say, was part of a drum circle as in a participant involvement from time to time. If she liked those sort of things, who's to say that she was in a wilderness or was buried in a wilderness or got lost in the wilderness, right? You don't never know with that. You don't never know because, see, shady people exist everywhere, right? And when it comes to killing people and getting rid of their dead body, it's to say, I can take it to the next city somewhere and dump it off somewhere, right? That's a sadness in it. Because to know that she left a child behind is to say the child is just going to be standing in that. That's a scary thing. Yeah, it reminds you completely of Unsolved Mysteries. Remember that show? That's a spooky thing about that. Because to be a child and then one day wake up and your mom is no longer there to ask questions, what happened to my mom? And all you remember is the face, your mom's face. But all that stands left is a vacancy, as in a ghost, as in a cloud. That's all you remember. Is the face, as well as a story you've been told by your father or family members that your mom vanished. To think of somebody vanishing is to think of a cloud. They're there and then they're gone. That's spooky for a child. Some kids, in fact, have nightmares over that type of stuff. So we're, in fact, on investigationdiscovery.com. The ID logo stands up in the far left. Live now is Murder in the Heartland. Unlocked episodes. You can, in fact, receive a audio visual preview by clicking that play button right there. You can add to watch later by clicking the plus sign. Season 1, Episode 1, Last Chance Lawyer. All of these are categorized specifically the way that they should be. On last night, Evo lives here. To gain access to this is to in fact provide who you're subscribed to. That's why there's the padlock there. That's the only way you can get into that. It's in fact exclusive. Shouts out to Lieutenant Jokinda as well as Paula. Unlock series. See, it slightly changes in the way that it looks. There's no play button. It's not a big play button in the center is what I'm trying to say. Recommended for you. That's where I usually say shouts out to Lieutenant Jokinda as well as Paula. ID Go Original Series. John Walsh have a tip. Help in the pursuit. You can fill that in. Crime Feed News, crimefeed.com. Yes, to gain access to the crime feed is a click right within here. You would in fact be directed to the other side on the outside, to crimefeed.com. Full of latest, greatest, the murder and the mayhem, which goes with that. The murder and the mayhem. To receive a newsletter, it's to type your email address in and click next, and you would in fact receive a newsletter from investigationdiscovery.com. It's a hotbed. And what I mean by that is I was sitting on the next button where you were to in fact click next. That's what I mean. So let me know in the comment section what you think about this situation. What do you think and feel happened, as well as what you think and feel will be the end result of everything. So I think that's all to be said for now, and I'm gone. May you enjoy your day, and I will in fact enjoy mine.